Can you imagine a world before the moving image? A time where capturing reality in the form of a photograph was brand new, and the world was on fire with invention. Humans were using their critical thinking brains to stretch the bounds of science in the name of art. Film was born through scientific curiosity about a horse and evolved throughout time into the world of film we know today. With the birth of the film festival came the birth of a genre, and many more trickled from there. This week we are going to talk about the first horror film ever screened at a festival and how that changed the course of history, both imagined and real. How did fictional horror capture the real dangers lurking around us? We end this week with a new segment,
Serial Time with Sam. Boop.
Where we explore yet another monster who lurked among us freely for far too long and encapsulates the essence of the horror genre. Horror mimics the true darkness inside us all. Welcome to Who Are You? Curious Stories of Family Lore. I'm Wheatsy.
And I'm Sam Ivy.
And I don't know what episode number this is. We don't know anymore.
Thanks for listening along with us. You made it this far.
We're really stoked you're still here. And this week we kind of have a mashup of a lot of different things that stem from our mutual love of film. Film meaning, in this sense, like the motion picture, but also photography, and then horror movies and how it all kind of relates to
who we are.
Yeah. And then we're gonna end with, you mentioned there, like a new segment, which I'm excited about. You guys seem to be really big fans of, every time Sam talks about like a serial killer or some really messed up person, those episodes they take off. So we figured we're going to add a little bit of that into this. I mean, it's mostly honestly this episode, but I'm going to start with giving the history of film festivals and how that kind of made, not even just the history of film festivals, but the history of film, cinema, the motion picture, and transition into film festivals. And really, it's because I hosted a film festival this past week. And
for the kids.
Yes, and it was for the students at the school I work at, and it was awesome. They did a great job. And I don't teach video production per se, but I teach a little bit of animation and things like that. So we jump into the history of animation. But what we don't really jump into is the history of the motion picture, which, after diving into this for this episode, I think I have some homework this summer, because I think I have a lot of curriculum reevaluation to do, because this is a really cool connection between analog film photography and the motion picture. So that being said, let's jump into some history.
Hell yeah, let's go.
So, in the 1870s, photography had already been invented. It had been around since the 1840s, where the camera obscura was used to basically create the first camera. And what the general way that film works, or analog photography, and thus motion picture, the core of the motion picture, is there's a light-sensitive piece of material, and that material can be anything you can get an emulsion on that's light-sensitive. And the key to making it work is it needs to be, and I know that you know this, but this is for the listeners, the key to this, it needs to be in a light-sensitive or a light-proof box. And then there's a pinhole from the other side. So pinhole photography Taylor was on the show, and if you guys listen to that episode, we talked about this, but it's all the same thing. The way that light refracts when it enters a dark room through a single hole is it refracts upside down and backwards against, the opposite opposing wall, like an hourglass, like this on my arm. No, I have too many tattoos on this arm. Where did it go? Whatever, you know which one. I thought it'd be easier to show you. It's not. So when you have a piece of light sensitive material, it captures whatever is outside of that pinhole upside down and backwards. And that creates your negative. It's also inverted. So the highlights are the shadows are the highlights. So that concept, that was already captured. The first photograph was captured by Nicephore Niepce in France. And I don't remember the exact year, but like 1830s, 1840s, something like that.
Yeah, for some reason I'm feeling like it's like 1848. I don't know why that's like ringing in my head, but I feel like that's wrong. But don't quote me on it.
Let's find out. When. Oh, and if anybody is anti-AI or like would like to not use AI as much, but you use Google, just so you know, after you search, before you hit enter, you can just put space -sign AI and hit enter, and it will populate search results without using AI. So just so everybody knows that, because I didn't want to download a whole other app.
That's cool. I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's handy. When was the first photograph taken? What year? Whoa! I was actually way off. The photograph that I am referring to was actually captured. Let me scroll a little bit, because when you turn off AI, you actually have to look through some sources. It was a heliograph, which we don't need to get into right now, but it was just the type of chemistry on the that was made up in the emulsion. But it was actually in 1826.
Damn, Fink would be disappointed in us.
But I think he would still be proud. But maybe 1826, which honestly we should remember that, because we were both born on the 26th of the month.
I know.
Yeah, I'm never gonna forget that now. Forever. And that should have been ingrained before, but here we are. We're learning, always students. 1826 was the first still photograph. So the birth of that technology caused a lot of inventors, mostly chemists and engineers, and there were artists involved too. Like Anna Atkins was an artist in her own right, but really was known for researching algae in England, was using the cyanotype. But the point of it is there was a lot of interest in photographing things. And so Edward Muybridge, he was was he a physicist or something? Scientist. He's something. He was important. I always knew him by Edward Muybridge, but I don't actually know if he wasn't a photographer per se. But his goal was to use photography as a means to answer a question. He wanted to know, and so did others, do all 4 feet of a horse touch the ground at the same time? And they were like, well, how would we know that? Because this is back when movies don't exist. The motion picture, that's not a thing. And they're like, we need to know. So Muybridge was like, I'm going to make a camera. I think he used the actual stables, the horse stables. And in every stable was another camera. And if you pulled the string, what would happen is the doors would open one at a time in a succinct way as the horse passed, therefore taking a photograph of each. I teach stop motion to my students. This is like the idea of taking these frames and compiling them together, because then when you view them in succession, they create the illusion of movement. So really, this was the first strip of motion film.
Yeah, this literally built the foundation for what you're able to teach now.
Mm-hmm. So that people saw that and they were like, wait, what? Hold on. Motion picture. Because also, before this happened, people were creating the illusion of motion with hand-drawn things. So they were creating things like zoetropes. And zoetropes are animation wheels, where you draw frame-by-frame animation, you cut slits in the side. It's basically like a pinwheel. and you face it towards a mirror and you spin it and you look from behind through to the mirror and it creates an animation. Then you take that same concept and now you put it into something that can project that image onto a bigger screen. But these are hand-drawn animations. This is taking photographs and animating them to life. So it kind of, people were like, oh, if we can take drawings and animate them, we can then take these photographs and animate them. So there was a lot of interest that evolved. And people went in so many different directions. People used it to study, to answer questions, to research, to just do it. Engineers, architects, anybody who had a say or wanted to build upon this idea, they were interested. I said architectures, that's not architects, that's not what I meant. Physicists, or like chemists, scientists. I don't imagine people building buildings were interested in this, but maybe they were. But that's not what I meant. So the craziest fact, one of the craziest facts that I found was, we all know, perhaps we don't all know, I shouldn't assume. Do you know who Thomas Edison is?
Yes.
Do you remember what he invented?
The light bulb?
He did invent the light bulb. Yes. You're like, you said no. Like, you had no idea. You're like, no. The light bulb. Like, what? Like, the two halves of your brain, they weren't talking. Like, one half of your brain was like, no, and the other one was like, yeah, we do.
And in my head, I picture Ben Franklin, and I'm like, wait, one did one and one did the other. So, like, but they kind of, like, tie together. But either way, so that's what took my brain a second. And you said Thomas Edison, I was imagining Ben Franklin, and it was like, no, this.
Yeah. Yes, so he invented the light bulb. When he heard about the motion picture, he was like, or like this capability, he was like, I want to get in on this. And this guy created a film in 1894 titled Boxing Cats. I will link all of these films in the show notes, so if you guys want to pause, go to the show note because they're quick. I found this on YouTube, so I should be able to play. If I have any issues posting them, I will put it at the top of the show notes. But I was able to view all of these films beforehand, so it should be fine. But it's hilarious. It's just two cats boxing in a boxing ring, directed by Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb.
That's
so
wild.
He had jokes. He literally created the first cat meme. Like, are you kidding?
Wild.
Yeah, so he was just doing everything. He had a goofy side. So because people, like artists, were interested, you have Thomas Edison, who's an inventor. He created this kind of comical film of these cats boxing, kind of telling the story, which made other people go, what story can I tell with this art form? And so it catapulted. And so movies became less about studying the movement and being scientific, like, oh, does a horse's feet all touch the ground at the same time? The answer is no, by the way. They found out that no, they don't. In case anyone was like, well, are they going to answer the question? That's the answer. They don't. They were like, okay, the answers are here. What can we do with this? And so they started to make films, artists and people started to make films that resembled more like books and novels and told stories, and you fell in love with the characters, and it answered questions about who, like, you are, morality of the human condition. And so, because of this massive rise of filmmaking between 1890 and 1920, well, 1920, 1930, really, there was such a plethora of film, but people still weren't taking the possibilities seriously, and it wasn't reaching an international level. You had people all over in little pockets making films, but nobody was coming together to, like the Venice Biennale is an arts festival that has been going on, oh my God, hundreds of years. And I went to it when I was in Italy studying abroad, and this thing was massive. Made me question everything about life. I mean, just things I can't even put into words. Rooms filled with these abstract things that made you question who you are, your place in the universe. Everything there was challenging the abilities or the threshold of the like what is possible. And the year that I went, the name of the Biennale was called May We Live in Interesting Times. And it encapsulated so much of my life at that time because everything was just crazy, interesting, and new and possible. And that's what this art festival is about and has been about. So this was going on while the films were being created. So Italy thought, you know what? If we added a festival dedicated to film, this will pull in, and people are already going to be here looking at art. They're already going to be in the mindset of breaking through thresholds, testing the limits of things. Let's add film into the mix. And so they hosted the very first Venice Film Festival alongside the Venice Biennale in 1932. And not only did they start the very first film festival with a bang, but they started it with a film that has become one of the most famous and recognized films across the face of almost every platform. Have you ever heard of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
Yeah, definitely.
That is the first film ever screened at any film festival ever.
That's fucking wild, dude.
Yeah. They opened the Venice Film Festival in 1932, the first film festival anywhere, with that film.
What a way to make an impact, like right off the bat.
Right? Like that's what you do. You're like, all right, you're all here. And if you don't know what Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is, it's considered one of the first horror films. It's actually not considered the first horror film, but it's the first film and first horror film ever screened at a film festival. So it's 2 in 1. Because I was looking for the first horror film ever screened at the film festival, and I found this, and I was like, whoa, they really just wanted to capture people. So this film, it was directed by Ruben Mamoulian and starred Frederick March, and it was an American film. And that's significant because it basically set American filmmaking, especially the horror genre, up in a really favorable light around the entire world, and truthfully probably paved the way for Hollywood to become a thing, because people are now looking at the USA as the leader in film because of this film. And it was actually based off on a novella, so a shorter novel, by Robert Louis Stevenson called The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And if you're not aware of what that is, because maybe not everybody is, I'm going to give just a very brief overview of what it is. So it's essentially this Dr. Jekyll. He is, the movie opens with him like teaching a class, and he's talking about how there's 2 parts to everybody, how you have the good and the evil. And I had a cup growing up that said there are 2 parts to every man, the good and the evil, and then something else, etc., etc. But it was from the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde cafe from some vacation we went on, because there's an entire restaurant dedicated to this right here. And the reason it's so profound is because it forced people to come to terms with the fact that if you embrace the demons inside of you, they will eventually take over. Because Dr. Jekyll creates this potion that turns him into Mr. Hyde. It turns him into his evil side. It separates his good side to his evil side. And when he does that, he like murders people. And he beats women, and he like does really terrible things. And then, but on the flip side of that, Dr. Jekyll is so kind and caring, and all he wants is to be like, he's engaged and he cares about his fiance, and this woman is like making advances on him, Ivy, and he won't sleep with her or do anything because he's just this full character, the complete opposite of, Hyde, Mr. Hyde. And by the end of the film, spoiler alert, but it's been here since 1930, you guys. I mean, come on. If I'm spoiling
plenty of time.
Pause it now, because I'm about to ruin the ending. Spoiler alert. at the end of the film, he makes a decision because he sees that Mr. Hyde is like abusing Ivy, who's a woman who Dr. Jekyll saved in the beginning. And she was like attracted to him, but she ends up like meeting Mr. Hyde because she doesn't know. And so that basically turns this into like she becomes the punching bag to Mr. Hyde the entire time. And so finally, Dr. Jekyll's like, I'm done. I'm not going to take the potion anymore. But Mr. Hyde has now had a taste of living, of being Mr. Hyde. So he ends up coming to the surface without Dr. Jekyll wanting him to. And he goes and he kills Ivy. And then he beats the living crap out of Dr. Hyde or Dr. Jekyll's fiance, who he's been faithful to this whole time. Technically, but it's the same body, so like I don't know. So debatable. That's still you, kind of. But it left such a powerful message that if you're not careful and you indulge in these bad things, that they overtake you. And this article here on Horror Obsessive made a really good comparison. If you're a shitty person and you go into politics, you're not going to suddenly become a better person because you're in politics. All the shittiness about you is going to become amplified because you're going to use the core of who you are. And that is always, like, it's always inside of us. But if you lean towards it, you just get worse. You know?
It's literally the equivalency of, like, feeding your demons. Like, feed your demons, they're not just going to go away because you decide to stop feeding them. Like, you're feeding them, you're fueling them, you're powering them up to therefore guide you to do worse things. And as, like, the theory, or not theory, but, like, at the end of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, like, that's the whole point, is he wanted to stop feeding his demons and realize that he became his demon.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And I think the reason why this resonated with the public so much and has become it's cemented in the history of cinema and inspired really the entire concept of this split identity. But at the same time, Sigmund Freud, who was born, he was born in the mid 1800s, died in the mid 1930s, I think, maybe 1940s. Either way, he was talking about the conscious and the subconscious mind, how we secretly want our mothers and fathers and all these weird fucking things. But he also presented the public with the idea that we can be split into things we can control and things we can't control. So then you have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde coming out, making us be like, oh my God, that he's such a good fucking person, but he's not. So he can hide behind this persona in plain sight. And that not only inspired the entire horror genre, but it also inspired people to recognize that there's a lot more truth in the horror genre. I mean, I can think of so many films. So that's really the history of cinema and film fests. And this is kind of where the horror queen is going to take over.
I just, everything that you said, is so interesting. And I think it's wild that it's, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde was the first one. Because, as you know, from knowing me for many, many years now, I love horror. I love all forms of horror. Whether it's real or fictional, or I'm reading it in a book or hearing it in another podcast, shout out Morbid. It's something that just has encompassed me. And even to the point where, my mom has a degree in forensic pathology and shit. So, me and her will sit there and just, at the dinner table, be like, all right, who's your favorite serial killer? And just spit facts. So, horror.
Which is so fucking crazy. I always forget that about your mom. And how, when she was in school, didn't she have to, sit through an autopsy or something crazy?
She had to sit through an autopsy, but the craziest thing she had to do for schooling is she was, 6 months pregnant with my sister at the time, and she had to ride in a police car during a policeman's shift and go walk through the jail, as part of her requirements, as she's 6 months pregnant.
Oh my God, that's fucking crazy.
But my mom is the reason, and my dad, but my mom, is a huge impact on my love for horror. I remember fucking back in the day going to old school Blockbuster just to go rent a handful of movies, and that's how I watched the first Nightmare on Elm Street series, was her just buying them and us binging them at the age of I think 8. And it just blew my mind. It blew my mind. Funny because like it does not matter which or whatever. What's funny about it is I actually got this book that I'm going to read you guys a little tidbit from, but it's called The Ultimate Serial Killer Trivia Book by Jack Rosewood. But it basically just kind of goes through like the different categories of serial killers and the different like subcategories and what defines them and why they are the way that they are, while going into like little tidbits of previous cases. And you know, like we've all heard of the notorious killers, Ted Bundy, Dahmer, you know, Ed Gein, like all of them. This book goes into depth with other ones. All right, and with that being said, it's time to get cereal with Sam. Cereal time with Sam. Boop.
So cereal.
So, in this book, I went ahead and happened to get upon the chapter that's called Bon Appetit, Serial Killing Cannibals. And, you know.
Whoa. I'm sorry. Oh my god, I don't like. It's like Bon Appetit. Sorry.
So,
sorry.
As I'm, you know, just sitting here reading all the notorious ones that we all know. And in case any of our viewers want to follow along, it's on page 74. It's literally called What Baltimore Serial Killer Turned His Victims into Homemade Hamburgers.
Oh my god.
And it caught my attention. I mean, obviously, victims and hamburgers, but this happened in Baltimore, Maryland, which is literally in my backyard, an hour and a half, 2 hours away from me at the most. So the fact that I did not know about this previously blows my mind. So that being said, let me get into it.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So it says, Joe Metheny was a mountain of a man, 6'1" and 450 pounds. He cut an imposing figure with his huge gut and shaved head, and after his wife walked out on him in 1994, he dedicated his life to finding her and killing her. Metheny never found his wayward ex-wife, so instead he targeted the next best thing: surrogates for the woman he hated. Metheny found himself underneath a bridge one night, the same location his ex-wife would buy drugs, and there he found two homeless men he believed knew her. When the men denied all knowledge, Metheny bludgeoned them to death with an axe, threw their bodies in a river. Metheny served a year in prison for his attack, but was then released due to lack of evidence. He immediately went back to his murderous ways, killing two sex workers. But this time, Metheny brought the bodies back home. Deciding to get creative with body disposal, he grounded up the bodies and mixed them with beef and pork into burger patties. Metheny then sold these patties to the public through a barbecue stand outside his house. When Metheny ran out of special meat, he searched for another sex worker. However, one potential victim escaped with his clutches and gave the police his information. Upon his arrest, Metheny proudly told the investigators about his human burger business. So,
whoa.
Being me, I had to do a little bit deeper of a dive and get to know who the fuck this motherfucker is and what he was doing in my backyard at this time. You know, fucking shit up.
Yeah. And the picture that you sent me of him, and that's going to be our, like, episode one. That, when I saw that is such a terrifying image. That's the thumbnail that you guys probably see, because I think I finally figured out how to change the thumbnail for every episode. Let me know if I'm wrong, because I'm trying. But at least on YouTube, it should change now. But that picture, you sent that to me, and I was like,
makes you uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable. Like, he's such a fucking creep bag.
So, before we get into more details about this Baltimore Cannibal, I'm just going to say it now, because there's multiple things in this article or in the research I've done that it's very much trigger warning between violence and sexual assault and things like that. So just fair warning, trigger. So, that being said, let's get into the Baltimore Cannibal. So, Joe Metheny, right? Big old dude. He was born March 2nd, 1955. He died August 5th, 2017. Even though he was only convicted of 2 murders, he has claimed to have killed at least 13 plus people, but none of that has been confirmed. So we're going to go back to his early life and kind of, give a little rundown of what, growing up as Metheny was like. He's, okay, getting into this fucker, because, after I found out some shit about him, it just made me, that picture will resonate in your head even more than it already does.
Yeah.
So when growing up, he was neglected by his mother, who literally was working multiple jobs to try to support him and like his fucking five other siblings that he had. His dad was in the picture, but his dad was a really bad alcoholic. So he wasn't very helpful to the family dynamic. And his dad ended up dying in a car accident when Metheny was only like 6 years old. So that put stress on the household even more. So with his mom already struggling, it added extra struggle. So with her kids and how many she had, she would actually send them to live with other families, not like as a permanent foster home, but like a foster home kind of situation, just to make sure her kids had a bed to sleep in and food in their mouth if she could not supply it.
An under the table kind of foster
Yeah,
thing?
like nothing official. It's like, hey, I got my kids. Can hey, best friend, can you take care of them for like a week real quick? I'm struggling to make bills. And they would take the kids in for her.
It's a tough situation. I can't even imagine. So no judgment here. I can't even imagine, but it also is like concerning
and
because
this is also like the 1950s, 1960s times too.
Yeah.
So
you're just sending your kids to live with people. Kids are hard, so it's like if you're not paying them, what are they getting out of it? And if it's not through the foster care system, which I know is broken as hell, but like is still safer in some ways. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
And you gotta think about that struggle too. Back in the day, like being a single mom was really frowned upon. It was that you stay married, white picket fence. Even though her husband died, it's still like you were put into a category.
Yeah.
She did the best she could with the little bit that she had, is the way I look at it. But you gotta think about it too from a kid's perspective, the type of development that can have and toll that can have on a kid's mental.
I'd be broken.
It was claimed that his mother said that Metheny was an above average student, always polite, and not mean as a child at all. She was quoted saying, he was smart and had a good childhood. If he was neglected, it was his own fault. It was a pretty good home.
Dr. Jekyll, just keeping the face, internalizing all the neglect, internalizing all the displacement, all of the feeling inadequate, and just letting it boil just below the surface.
And like,
oh my god!
So
how weird! Like that's so.
It's weird how it ties in too.
Yeah, especially with how he looks.
So, he had passed his childhood. By 1973, Metheny decided to join the United States Army. And this should kind of put some perspective on like his mental where he was at the time, because his mother claims he served in Germany while he was in active service. But Metheny claimed that he was in Vietnam and had become addicted while there in an artillery unit. But fun fact, the American involvement in Vietnam had ended at that time when he was in service. So to kind of show you where his mental's at, obviously he got into drugs. I mean, as previously stated in the article that I read you guys, his wife was into drugs, so birds of a feather sometimes flock together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened. Metheny was actually given the nickname Tiny, ironically, in the 1990s. He would spend...
Yeah, he was anything but tiny if you've seen the picture, which is what makes him so fucking menacing.
He spent much of his time drinking in the bars and lived with groups of homeless men in makeshift camps in South Baltimore. But he also had a job at the time. So like most of his money that he would make would just get spent on crack cocaine, heroin, and liquor. But he was a steady forklift driver. So like he had steady income. He just did not dispose of it well.
Yeah, and I feel like forklift drivers make a pretty good amount of money because that's a tough job.
Yeah.
Like construction in general.
And to make that money and still be living on the streets and just wasting your money away in vices to help numb the pain did not help him at all.
No.
So that was going on during the 90s and all that shit, right? So we're going to go ahead and jump into a little bit more details about the murders and like what everything happened. So in 1994 is when Metheny murdered Kathy Ann Magazarian. Might have butchered her last name, but it's Magazarian. And buried her body in a shallow grave on a site of the factory where he was working. He later said that he had strangled her and then he dug up her skeleton 6 months later put her head in a box, and then threw it in the trash can.
I am so fucking sorry. Oh my god. Who was this to him?
This is just some random woman, because remember, he had that problem with his ex-wife who left him. Took his kids, left, so he wanted to kill his ex-wife, and he could not find his ex-wife. So he would find surrogates, kind of like how Ted Bundy would, where it resembled the person he wanted to take his anger and frustration out on. So this just happened to be a random woman that looked like his ex-wife.
Because this happened after she left him with his kids?
Yeah, because he didn't start going on to his...
homeless.
Yeah, like his wife left, all that jazz, took everything from him, and that's kind of where his life kind of transpired down. I mean, he was already dabbling in drugs and shit before then, but he seemed like he had shit a little bit more put together.
Yeah. Did he meet, like, do you know if he met her in the military, like when he was in the military, or he just at some point was married and then divorced with kids?
I think he met her after the military, because it didn't really go into details about his ex-wife or the estranged wife. It just says, like, they were together for, like, I think a couple years, had a couple kids, and then she just randomly left one day. Like, he came home and she was gone, the kids were gone. And he had no identification of, like, where they went, and had not found them.
There had to have been a reason that she got away from him. Like, she must have sensed, or maybe she saw Mr. Hyde.
She might have.
You know?
She's living with it.
Like, good for her. Oh, I hope she really got away and he wasn't just...
Oh no, she did. There's no records of, like, her not, her body being found or anything like that. There's nothing like that kind of trickles into that being a possibility on his end. That's why.
But do you know if she was ever found? Like, any record of where she went?
I don't know. That I don't know.
Oh my god.
The way that he was so willing to confess to all these murders and show pride in them, I feel like if he would have killed her, he'd be like, yeah, I killed that bitch.
That's fair. You know more about him because you did the research, so it makes sense. I'm over here like, holy, I've never heard of this that I can remember. And it's crazy how close it is to you and where you've grown up and just lived. And this was in the 90s. You existed in some of the 90s.
Yeah, like, dude, 1994, that was 3 years, 3 years before I was born. Like, first murder happened 3 years before I was born. So that happened, right?
Sorry to derail. I just had
No, you're good. You're good. So he went ahead and did that. He basically got away with it. Wasn't found yet, right? So Metheny, then in 1995, was tried for killing those two homeless men that we talked about in the serial killer trivia book that they said that, he killed them with an axe. Those men names were Randall Brewer and Randy Picker. And he killed them with an axe at quote unquote Tent City under Baltimore Hanover Street Bridge. So basically like a little homeless like camp. So they called it Tent City.
And he killed them why?
He thought that because he went to that bridge and that's where his wife used to buy drugs. And he accused them of knowing his wife. And when the men denied, like, no, we have no idea who she is, he didn't believe them. So he found an axe and picked it up and decided to,
Oh my god. Just two random
homeless men.
Gentlemen who are trying to survive. So he must have been... Metheny must have been, like, on drugs or something.
He was on drugs, or just, like, as you can see, like, even when it came to the military dispute of, like, when he was actually in active service, like, his mental just wasn't 100% there. So he went ahead, and Brewer and Picker's bodies were eventually discovered on August 2nd, 1995, so it wasn't soon after. But at the same time that he killed these two homeless guys, there was murders amongst rival groups of homeless men in the same area. One of those homeless men was Larry Amos, who actually stole that axe that Metheny used to kill Randy and Randall, and used it to kill another homeless man, Everett Duell. And Duell, ironically, was murdered the same day that Picker and Brewer's bodies were found. So, because of Amos admitting to murdering Duell with the weapon, the jury concluded in July of 1996 that there wasn't enough sufficient evidence to convict Metheny of the murder because of the other homeless man having his fingerprints on the axe, killing another homeless man. There was too many factors where they couldn't make a rightful conviction.
They both killed people. What the fuck?
Yep. But during the time, they couldn't connect the dots right.
Oh my God.
Metheny later confessed to committing these murders because he was all proud of them. But he got away with murder at that time. He got away with 2 murders at that time because you got Kathy and you got these 2.
Holy shit.
Fast forward to like mid-November 1996. Metheny killed another woman, Kimberly Lynn Spicer, by stabbing her with a knife. He then kidnapped Rita Kemper on December 8th, 1996, and attempted to rape her. According to the prosecutors, he shared drugs with Kemper in the trailer where he was living. He refused to have sex with him and ran out of the trailer. So he chased her, beat her, dragged her back into the trailer, pulled down her pants, and attempted to rape her. Kemper said that he attempted to murder her, saying, "I'm going to kill you and bury you in the woods with the other girls."
God, that is fucking terrifying. Like, holy fuck. To be drugged back in there after he beats you and you almost got away. Oh my God.
But her story is not there. It ends yet. She actually ended up escaping through a window of the trailer and fled to police officers in the area. So Kemper got away. She is part of the reason why Metheny got, arrested. Now, after she ran out, Metheny then asked a friend of his to help him bury the body of Spicer, the woman he killed before, raping Kemper, which he had been hiding at the factory site since killing her a month prior.
Oh my God. Where? How does nobody know this?
That was my question. So,
how do you not know that she's there?
He asked his friend for help. The friend was like, "Fuck no," and reported it to the police on December 15th, 1996.
Thank God that friend wasn't like, "Sure, I'll help you."
Yeah, so between his report and Kemper's report being like, "Yo, he dragged me into his house, raped me, beat me, all that shit."
Which should have been enough. That should have been enough. What the fuck? I don't get why did he not get arrested when she reported that?
He did not get arrested when she reported it. He did not get arrested until December 15th when his friend made that call.
That is
happened
insane.
To go to the facility that he worked at and discovered the body.
How when she made that report, did they just say, "Oh, we'll get to it"? Like, this is a fucking predator.
Yeah.
That makes that angers me. Why he was still walking around after she reported that, after she escaped him. He should have been arrested immediately.
Yeah, so he got arrested, right? So then he just started confessing to other murders and, proud of them, boasting about them, all that shit. And he even led police to the shallow grave that he had reburied for Magaziner, the woman that he cut off her head and put it in the trash can. And then they later identified her because he still had the head in whatever can he put it in. So they identified her by the dental records. But he was so proud of his murders, he led them straight to the body of the reburied grave.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not laughing because that's just a holy shit laugh. That's like a little unbelievable. He had her head where?
So he decapitated and put it in a box and instead put it in a trash can. I don't know if he kept that trash can at the facility. I don't know if he kept that at his house. I'm assuming it's at the facility or wherever he buried the rest of her body. But for some reason he wanted to keep her head separate.
That is so saddening to think about her being discarded and treated like that.
But
and all the other victims
did eventually get to the family. That's good. That is a blessing in that bad light.
Yeah.
But he only did it because he was proud. And he wanted to be like, no, I legit, you don't believe me? Here, let me take you.
Disgusting.
So, he was arrested, right? He was eventually tried in 1997 in the Kemper case. So, in the rape case. That was the first thing he was tried for. He was given a sentence of 50 years for kidnapping and attempted sexual assault. He was acquitted for attempting to murder her. explain why, but they were just like, no, he didn't murder you. He just had a comment.
He, okay. Can we just do some fucking deductive reasoning here? Why is deductive reasoning not admissible in court? Can you fucking answer me this? He had a wanted in a fucking box,
Yep.
in a bag, in a fucking garbage can. And you're gonna tell me that you're gonna dismiss his attempted motherfucking murder charges because she escaped out a window?
Yep.
You're gonna punish her for surviving? You're gonna punish him less because he failed at his objective?
That's literally how I did it.
You should literally be fucking punished more. Because you can't even do what you set out to fucking do. What you shouldn't be set out to fucking do. I'm losing it. I'm sorry. I've been quiet.
Dude, you're
I've
good.
been holding back.
This case is fucking wild. Especially, like, because, like I said, all I see is the picture that I sent you in my head, and it just makes me want to, like, punch him in the face so bad.
It just points out how fucking broken our justice system is. That who the fuck decided to dismiss that charge? Looking at the evidence and the history and the entire fucking person. How do you do that? And then how do you sleep at night?
But Karma is still a bitch, though, because he might have gotten acquitted for attempting murder for her, but he was then sentenced to death in 1998 for the murder of Spicer, the woman that he wanted his friend to help dispose the body of. At his sentence hearing, he stated that he committed murders because he enjoyed it.
Well, we don't usually partake in things we don't enjoy that are not required of us.
So, yeah, you're not wrong.
Fuck.
But the fact that he could say that with, like, a smirk on his face, that, like, he did it because he enjoyed it.
That is fucking... Oh my god. You know what I just remembered? You know what I just remembered? No, you go first. No,
go ahead. Tell me what you just remembered.
I just forgot about the burgers, that's all.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck? I forgot all about that, and I'm fucking derailed again.
So, and all I can say to you is, like, imagine being Kemper, the one surviving victim, and hearing him say that he committed murders because he enjoyed it.
And then also, and then also knowing that his, like, attempted murder charges against you got dismissed, but he looked at somebody in a courtroom and said he did it because he enjoyed it. So she knows that she would have been killed if she didn't escape. And the fact that, like, it's completely unjust. I know he got the death penalty, good, but she deserves that charge to be fucking that should be a charge against him.
So, in August 1998, he pleaded guilty to the murder and robbery of Magazinger, the one he decapitated. Yeah. And the prosecutors also sought the death penalty in that case as well. But I do believe they didn't get the death penalty. Like, yes, he got years to life, no parole, but they got, like, you know, he was not sentenced to death.
Because he was already sentenced to death? Is that why?
Oh, yeah, like, you know, like, when, like, on death row type deal, like, he wasn't sentenced to, like, you know, be executed. It was more like, you're just going to be in prison for the rest of your life. So, like, yes, they sought out the death penalty. Doesn't mean they got the death penalty.
He deserved it. I thought he was sentenced to death.
He was sentenced to 50 years, and it was in this, he was sentenced to death, but it didn't get, like, they got overturned for the death penalty, like, years later. If that makes sense. It's like the state, like, changed their rules on it or some shit.
How is that possible? I never fucking understand this. And I don't. And somebody, please, if you would be so kind, how do these things happen? An entire, oh my god, what am I trying to say? An entire trial occurred. Evidence was presented multiple motherfucking times. You were convicted to die. You should die. Who later on is like, no, you shouldn't. Why shouldn't he? Why? Why are we wasting our resources? Why are we feeding him? Why are we housing him? Why are we giving him clothes? Why are we giving him rec time? Why does he get to work out in the fucking courtyard? Why does he get to bully people for their fucking gravy? It's not fair. Sorry, I'm done. I'm
You're
sorry.
good.
I'm so mad about that. That's just...
It's okay, though, because he died in prison anyway, just of natural causes at age 62. So
he should have been electrocuted.
He should have. Electrocuted, injected, or something, but he didn't.
I know the electric chair is probably not popular opinion, but it is to me. I think if you're a fucking heinous piece of shit who does horrific things to people, you should die a painful death, and people should get to watch that. And that is medieval, and that is morbid, and that is an unpopular opinion.
I feel you,
think the electric chair, at least if you know you could die by electrocution, maybe you won't fucking commit heinous crimes.
I'm a firm believer that whatever crime you committed on somebody, you deserve to have the same thing committed to you. Eye for an eye.
An eye for an eye.
I know, yeah, like it's very, like you said, medieval, but if you can sit there and inflict so much pain on another human being, why should you not have the same inflicted on you?
Because then that opens the can of worms, though, because somebody has to inflict it on that person. And remember, if you teeter-totter with your demons, they eventually take over.
Fair.
So it's like, who's doing the...
It's that line. It's like that weird line of, like, gray area.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he died in prison. But I did go, like, find a little bit of research into, like, what he did to his victims when it came to the burger process. So, in his confessions, Metheny told police all the violent things he did to the sex workers and the homeless. How these, like, victims were substitutes for his runaway wife and shit like that. He killed the 2 sex workers, and instead of tossing their bodies in the river, he brought them home and dismembered them and stored the meatiest parts of them in Tupperware containers. What?
Oh my god. Why did you say it like that? Oh my...
He stored the meatiest parts of them in Tupperware containers. What he didn't fit in his freezer, he buried in a truck lot owned by the pallet company he worked for.
This is all of his victims, or just some?
These were the 2 sex workers. So after he killed the homeless man, it was the 2 women that he killed afterwards that he, took all the meat that he could, because he would also sit at home and eat it. Like, he didn't just sell it to, like, the people at the barbecue stand. He would sit there and eat it himself. But he had too much of it. So that's when he got the idea of, I'm going to mix it with some fresh beef and pork and 4 patties. Because he said humans taste just like pork. So once you mix it with pork, you can't tell a difference.
I am disturbed.
And then he proceeded to sell.
Just sold it.
Yeah, he just sold at a little barbecue stand outside of wherever he was staying at on the road. People driving by. And he was quoted saying, like, now that I've done this, like, I hope everybody else that's driving by and they see stands like that, you take a second to think about what you're eating.
Oh my god. All the people. I wonder if, like, after he was caught, if anybody is like, oh no, I fucking bought a burger from him. It
kind of reminded me, like, that aspect of, like, people unknowingly is, like, the Hotel Cecil when the woman died and was in the water tank for that time, and the water got dispersed and people were drinking and things like that. Like, it kind of, like, went my head and kind of go there. But yeah,
my gosh.
That is the Baltimore Cannibal. That is the research I did on, Joe Metheny. And that was Serial Time with Sam.
So. I had a little bit of a delay because I'm still disturbed as fuck. But yeah. So Sam does really good research into really disturbing people who fucking suck. And we're going to list all the victims' names in the show notes, and then the sources. And then I will also list some of those films that we talked about, because truthfully, this was a really good example of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and those early filmmakers knowing, like, the fallacy of the human ideal. Like, we are... that wife who left him, she saw it. She saw Mr. Hyde, and she was like, no. She took her babies and she fucking left. And then look what happened. I can't even imagine what she must have gone through to like leave like that.
And at least she like left what she did, because if it took that little incident for him to just go on a murderous spree, do it for fun. Like, I couldn't imagine if he still like had his family. Like, granted, like none of his victims were children, but like if he's not in the right mental state and you're at the house with like your kids and your wife and you just start fucking raging, who's gonna stop that?
No. Well, dads. There are lots of cases where parents have killed their children. So it's good she left, because I'm sure it was just a matter of time with how absolutely like horrifically violent. And then he liked to like be in control. He liked to know, oh, they're eating human and they don't even know.
Yeah, and like he found like a sick perverseness from it. Like it was something that, like, the fact that he was so proud and found so much enjoyment out of what he did and had no remorse for human life, like that alone should have gotten you the death penalty. Like, yeah, that alone should have gotten you old Sparky.
Yeah, because you're gonna do it again.
Yeah, like there's no type of rehabilitation that can happen for somebody that's that far gone, if that is your mental. That is somebody that is fed into the demons.
Yes, and that is who should the electric chair should be reserved for. I don't think we should be electrocuting people who
had the potential to be rehabilitated and changed and made just one mistake.
Yes, or could be innocent. Like, I'm talking about the people who they've confessed. There's clear fucking evidence. There's clear indication that they are never going to be rehabilitated. And given the chance, they will do whatever it takes to indulge in these dark, terrible, twisted things. They do not deserve to even think or fantasize. They don't deserve to sit in prison and even rot. They don't even have a right to rot.
Yeah.
They need to be disposed of. And it needs to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Lethal injection, not good enough. It's not good enough. Because you're still going to do the crime, because you're going to think, it's just lethal injection, worst case.
Yeah, worst case I go to sleep.
Be electrocuted. Shit yourself. Like, that's how I feel.
Well, like how, like, this case, for example, like, it's just so grotesque and so extreme for no reason. Like, these women, these sex workers and shit, they were just doing their jobs. Like, they were doing what they could to survive, and you just took the advantage and took control and took a life and took somebody's possible mom, sister, daughter away from them.
Mm-hmm. Just because they are in sex work doesn't make them less than. And that is something that historically we've seen time and time again, that there's certain industries that are shit all over and are targets to things like this that are dangerous because society neglects to take care of them.
Yep, or neglects to even like look into them, because I feel like that's part of the reason why he got away with it the way that he did, is like he was killing these women that were important. Like, they had families, but they weren't important enough to society.
Right.
They were like the homeless men. Like, they were homeless. They were important to somebody. They were somebody's family members, but they weren't important enough to society for them to look further to be like, oh no, homeless guy, homeless on homeless fucking violence.
Yeah, which, even if it is, find out who did it. Find out who did it. Like, just because you're homeless doesn't mean, or without a home. And I know that there's like homeless, I guess, is offensive, but I honestly cannot remember the other.
It's just like the article I found that kept using it, so I just...
and I'm not calling, I've said it too, like, I'm not calling you out. I just want to be, like, say out loud that I know that is probably offensive, but that is not how we mean it, and I can't remember unhoused or something. So if anybody wants to share that with us, great.
Terminology.
I could also just look it up, but it would be cooler if one of you did it, right?
What are your final thoughts, man? Like, that was a lot to kind of throw at you.
Well, my final thoughts are that I don't know how to word it. My final thoughts. Honestly, that was a lot, and that guy sucks. He's horrific, and I think it's it's something that we as humankind have always known, that there are fucking monsters. Like, we talked about this. We brought this up with the Bethesda Butcher, with the Chameleon Killer, all these serial killers that you've been introducing us to, hence the series, sub-series here, segment, if you will. It just reminds me, like, art is an outlet for truth, and it forces you to face things. And there's all forms of art. There's the moving picture, there's photography, drawing, painting, abstract, like dancing, you know, singing, music. It's endless. Any way to express yourself. Sculpture, you know, working with metals, glass, jewelry, whatever it is you want to do, it's an expression of some sort of truth, whether that truth is relative to all or to you. And by creating film, sometimes we teeter the line and we share the things that we know to be true about society, and others who understand those truths connect to it. And that's what makes film so powerful. And that's why Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you know, echoed through the story that you told, and it highlighted the darkness of Metheny, this fucking real life monster who his whole childhood was model child, really good in school.
Yep.
But then fucking Dr. Jekyll flipped and went to Mr. Hyde, and that is horrific. So be safe out there, people, and don't indulge in your demons. And if you do, be wary, because demons tend to creep up on you.
And maybe, like, don't buy a burger from somebody selling it outside their house just in case.
Yeah.
For thought.
And never stop asking yourselves,
Who
are you? Yeah, I'm not gonna eat, no offense, at anybody's front door food trucks. You gotta have a license for my patronage.